All right, hey, good evening, everybody. It is Thursday, June the 2nd, 2022, and today we're going to look at a few of the Psalms that are with today's date. Today is the 2nd, so we will look at Psalms 2, 32, and Psalm 62. And I've entitled today's, excuse me, I'm hearing something in my ears. All right. I've entitled today's Daily Manna, Hiding in the One Who is Sure, or Hiding in the One Who is Certain. And as you can tell, I'm not in Arizona, I'm still in Missouri, and so I'm pre-recording this so that we definitely have time together to get today in the Lord's Word. And thanks for being faithful to join with us every day so that we can really just eat together from God's word and say, Lord, feed me, shape me, speak to me, form me into who you've called me to be. Psalm chapter 2, or Psalm 2. It says, why are the, by the way, I don't have because Antonio's not with me to put the text up on the screen. I don't have that with me, so you'll have to read from your own Bibles. If you want to read from, I'm reading from the Tree of Life version. Psalm 2, verse 1. Why are the nations in an uproar, and the peoples are muttering vanity, or they're devising emptiness? They're muttering, they're devising emptiness. And so you have this picture right in the beginning of that's portraying the nations, the peoples, kind of coming together, coming up with their own plans. Verse 2 says, the kings of the earth set themselves up, and rulers conspire together. They're in unity. The nations are in unity against Adonai and against his Mashiach, against his anointed one. So the kings of the earth are taking their stand. All the important people, the dignitaries, establishing themselves in unity against the Lord and against his anointed one. So they want to set their kingdom against his. And so just as in at the building of the tower in the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11, there's a unity where the nations all come together, and it's against Messiah. So this is Antichrist against Messiah. This is the heart of rebellion against the rule of the Lord. And this is a war. It's kings against the king. It's kings overthrowing the rule of God. It's rebellion. And so which king will prevail? Which kingdom is going to win? Verse 3 continues with their heart. They're saying, let's rip their chains apart. And so the imagery is to snap their chains apart and throw their ropes off of us. So the imagery here is making it as though God's rule is one that is giving them bondage, is one that chains. They want to throw off the chains of God. And the Lord sits in heaven, verse 4. He who sits in heaven laughs. Adonai mocks them. He's This is stunning. The reversal, the absurdity that the kingdoms of this world are somehow seeking to bring freedom from the God who brings freedom. And the Lord is like, this is absurd. In Proverbs 3:34 talks about how the Lord scoffs at the scoffers, but he gives grace to the humble. So here the Lord mocks them. Verse 5 says, so he will speak to them in his anger and terrify them in his fury, in his kindling heat. Verse 6, this is what the Lord says, Va'ani, but I myself have set up my king. And the word here used for set up is the word for something poured out as a drink offering. So that there's imagery here in the Lord having translated as set up my king, but it's to pour out. It's an offering, a drink offering, my king, upon Zion, my holy mountain. So there's imagery there that would of course point to Yeshua in his sacrifice, pouring himself out as king. Verse 7, I will declare the decree of Adonai. He said to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. So this I have begotten you, or I've become your father. He said to me, today, my son, you are. I emphatically this day have brought you forth. And so this is metaphoric language of father-son relationship. The king is now in position to ask what he will of God. The father says, You are my son. Um, Now, whatever you want. Verse 8, ask me, inquire of me, and I will give the nations as your inheritance, and the far reaches of the earth as your possession. You shall break the nations with an iron scepter. You shall dash them in pieces like a potter's jar. So here the nations are under the rule of all of these kings who are saying, coming together, saying, conspiring, saying, we want to throw off the rule of God. And so the rule of God is going to come now. The king, the Messiah, the God's anointed one, is going to come and break the rule of the nation. He is now going to bring the rule of God, which is actually an overthrowing of crushing. He's going to crush crushing. He's going to break breaking, as it were, because he has come to give us life and to give us life abundantly. Verse 10 says, so now, O kings, be wise, have understanding, have insight that will result in you actually doing it. It's this word sakal, which is wisdom that produces a result in the way you live your life. So kings, may want to respond in your life to what you see here. Take warning, O judges of the earth. Serve Adonai with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he become angry and you perish along your way, since his wrath may flare up suddenly. Happy is everyone who's taking refuge in him. So the plot of Psalm 2 circles around this basic question of who rules the earth. Do human princes and kings and kingdoms, or is there a different king? Is there the king of all kings? Of course, the issue in Psalm 2 is never really the issue. God rules and he is over all of it, and he sees all the conspiracy and all of this stuff. And yet he says, my kingdom will ultimately rule. So when we talk about the certainty of God, the certainty of his ways, it's hold on to him, hold on to his ways, trust in him, wait in him. Psalm 32 is a psalm of David. It's a contemplative song, and it says, blessed or ashrei, happy, fortunate is the one whose transgression, whose rebellion is forgiven. So you see, I just want to point out that this is what you always see in the heart of God, is that he is, when you encounter the glory of God, he is forgiving, he is gracious, he's compassionate, he forgives transgression, which the word for transgression, pasha, means rebellion, defiance. He forgives it. But you can't remain in it. He forgives iniquity and sin when we miss the mark or twist things up. That's who he is, and it's available. But when the kings of the earth who have been invited to, hey, watch out, submit yourself to the Son, submit yourself to the rule of God. Stop trying to stick with your way. Stop trying to assert your way, because it will result in your own destruction. Is God graciously calling us to life? He will not allow ultimately for crushing and bondage to win the day. He's going to take captivity captive. And so what David experiences here is that um, his transgression, his rebellion, his own defiance is forgiven. And so the imagery right at the beginning of this makes that, it reflects the fact that that's available, that is available to all. Blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin, chata, is pardoned. Blessed is the one, blessed is the human, the man whose guilt uh, Adonai does not count. So right here in these first two verses, you got transgression, which is pasha, rebellion. You've got sin, which is chata, which is missing the mark, which would be erring. And then you've got here guilt, which is avon, which is iniquity, which is twisting, his perversion. Blessed is the one who Adonai does not count against him, and in whose spirit there is no deceit, there's no negligence. The word here for deceit is laxness or laziness and negligence, so that we are in pursuit of the things of God, not just being like, well, whatever happens, happens. David says, when I kept silent, my bones became brittle through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was drained as in the droughts of summer. right? So when he says, day and night your hand was weighty upon me. It was heavy upon me. And the word for strength here is, it's a word that is referred to fresh cakes when they're soft and they're new, cakes baked with oil. He says, when your hand was upon me, it basically dried me out. It brought me to a place of the droughts of summer. I was completely parched. Um, when I'm secretly trying to work my will against God's, his way is like a river that, if you get in line with his way, is like a river that brings newness and life. But when you try to press against it, when you go against him, we looked in this passage in Isaiah last week where the Lord invites us um, to hide in him. And he says to hide in him, or you're going to stumble over him. It's one or the other. Are you going to trust in him, lean into him, or are you going to trip over him? Because either way, he's there. So how are you going to respond to the Lord? And so here he's like, when I was trying to persist in my own way, your hand was heavy upon me. I was drained. It wasn't refreshing to me. Why am I running after my own way when it's ultimately ripping me apart? So instead of being vital and fresh like a cake baked with oil, I was dried out and crumbling in pieces from the heat of summer. Right? The oil was no longer moistening the cake. I was stale. I was hardened bread. And then he gives us a Selah here to sit on that for a minute. Verse 5, he says, then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not hide my iniquity. I declared, I said, I confess my rebellion, my transgressions to Adonai, and you, Va'ata, you yourself, you forgave the guilt of my sin. Right? So this is as soon as I called on you. I mean, when I was trying to do my own thing and I was going to resist you and press against you, it was crushing me. But when I called on you, you forgave the guilt of my sin. Verse 6, he says, so let everyone, he calls on, concerning all these things, let everyone who is chesed, who is godly, or who is of your covenant, pray to you. In a time when you may be found, when great flood waters rise, they will not reach him. So he says, Kol chesed, all who are godly, all who are chesed, all who are of your covenant love, let all who are of your love be dependent upon you, call to you, look to you in a time when you may be found, before it overwhelms them. Don't wait too long. Call on the Lord, hide in him, run to him. Why are you lining up with the kings of the earth in your own heart? Why are you lining up to say, I'm going to overthrow the will of God. I'm going to rebel against him. I'm going to twist things up in my own way, missing the mark. And all the while I'm being crushed when I would just hide in him and find newness and strength in him. Verse 7, he says, you, Ata, you are my hiding place. You are my shelter. You will protect me from distress. You surround me with songs of deliverance. I will instruct and teach you in the way you should go. I will give counsel. My eye is on you. So verse 8 is the Lord speaking to us, saying, I'll give you understanding. He uses that word, sechal. I'll give you the wisdom for living your life in a way that will give you exactly what you need. I'll instruct you. I'll teach you, yara, in the way you should walk, in the way you should go. And I will advise you. I'll counsel you. My eye is on you. I'm watching you. I haven't forgotten you. Verse 9, he says, do not become like the horse or the mule who have no understanding. They don't get it. Don't be like a dumb animal. And where you have to be held in with bit and bridle or they'll not come to you. Why won't you just submit to me? The animals, they have to be pulled and yanked. And why can't you just respond to my word? Why are you conspiring against me? Why are you conspiring in your heart to do your own thing when I have for you what is good? I'll instruct you. I'll teach you in the way you should go. Don't be so foolish. Don't choose the way of pain. Verse 10, it says, many are the sorrows of the wicked, but loving kindness, but chesed surrounds the one who trusts in the Lord. Be glad, rejoice in Adonai, and rejoice, you righteous, and shout for joy, all who are upright in heart. It's a powerful call to why are we going to run in our own way and run from the things of God. Continuing this morning, or this afternoon, this evening. Psalm 62, which is this a psalm of certainty. 6 times in this passage, this word ach is used to say this is for certain. Surely, certainly this. Here's what I know for sure. It's this declaration. So there's like these 6 declarations of the Lord. Now, when you read it in English, you're seeing it'll be like the word only, often surely, or it'll say only. But it's a declaration, surely or only in God. So this opening verse is verse 2 says, "My soul wait in stillness," but only for God. But the opening of the verse actually is, it says, "Ach al Elohim," only upon God. Only to God, surely to God, certainly to God. Rest, O my soul. Only in God does my soul have rest, does my life have stillness. From him is my salvation. From him, mimenu Yeshuati is my rescue, is my deliverance. Verse 3, he alone, only he, only he is my rock and my salvation. My fortress, I will never be moved. I will never waver. I will never totter. Only he is my siege enclosure, my deliverer. I will not be shaken. So you have only in him does my soul rest. Only he is my rock, my salvation, my high castle. Verse 4, how long, until when will all of you assault a man? Will you reproach him, come against his reputation, to crush him like a leaning wall, like a fence to be torn down? Right? So this is a question. How long? We read this all the time. But it's saying to the enemies, how long are you going to batter your victim? Not just trying to take down their boundaries, but trying to take down the house itself, trying to take down the whole thing. How long are you going to do this? And the question is in verse 4 is to the enemies, which leads to another surely statement, another assertion of certainty. Because speaking of the enemies, they it says mashito, only from this heights do they seek. They plan to banish him. They only plot to topple him from his rank. So those that are coming against even the Lord, are coming against the people of God, they are certainly not trying to build you up. They are certainly trying to tear you down. So delighting in falsehood, they bless with their mouth, but inwardly they curse. So these men, these enemies who assault with their mouth in order to kill, that their plans, their intentions are certainly to bring you down. The enemy's intention is to fully destroy. That is his only desire. That is his certain desire, to banish you from the heights that God has for you. So he speaks words that bless, right? The enemy will come with a word to lift you up on the outward, but in his innermost being, his plan is to curse you, to bring you down. So you can't trust what you see. You can't trust what the enemy says. Right? And so that brings you anxiety. Well, who do I trust? How do I trust? How do I know what's true? How do I know what's false? So that comes back to verse 6. My soul. It's again, ach le Elohim. Only to God. Only surely to God. Rest, my soul. My soul, wait in stillness, only certainly in God. From him comes my expectation. From him is my hope. When there's all this uncertainty, everything coming around, from he alone is my hope. So these ox statements, only does my soul have rest in him. Only is he my rock, my salvation. And these men, the enemies who assault with their mouth, but they say nice things, but what's in their heart is to tear me down. That's all they're doing. That's all the enemy wants to do. But only, verse 6, only in God does my soul have rest. Again, verse 7, it opens with Ahu. He alone, only him. He is my salvation. He is alone is my rock and my salvation, my strong tower. I will not be moved. I will not be shaken. Um, Back in it's almost the same as verse 3, right? But back in verse 3, it said, I will not be greatly shaken. So now it just says, I will not be shaken. So as he reminds himself, as he says, only in the Lord, only Lord, he is my rock. The first says, I will not be greatly shaken. And he's still shaken a little bit. And he's saying, I will not be shaken. Verse 8, on God my salvation and my glory is the rock of my strength. My refuge is in God, or my refuge I seek in God. Verse 9, he turns to us and says, trust in him all the time, you people. Trust in him at all times. Pour out your heart in his presence. Pour out your heart to his face. Literally, God is our refuge. Verse 10 opens with ah again. It says, surely, and you can't see it in the translation here, but it says, surely only a breath of the children of Adam. Sons of Adam are a vapor, but there's a certainty to that our life, our humanity is only for a breath. Sons of man are an illusion, a deception. In balanced scales, they go up. Altogether, they are less than a breath. So here we have a reference to both Bnei Adam, the children of Adam, the children of man, and Bnei Ish, the children of a particular man. So when they're both listed like this, it's not necessarily a synonym, but it's a distinction. So it's like just the children of Adam is the children of humanity. It's like everyone. And then when it says Bnei Ish, it's referring to like even those who are of the children of important people or of a particular man, those who are children of privilege, of position. They too, you can take them and everybody else and put them up on the balance. And all together, the common people are like a breath. The privileged people it's an illusion. They're a deception. Put them all on a scale. Put them all together. They weigh less than a breath. And so now this is that's the sixth of the Ach statements. So only does in verse 2, only in God, for certain in God does my soul rest. Verse 3, he certainly is my rock, my salvation. Verse 5, certainly humanity, the enemy seeks to bring you down. Verse 6, certainly in God does my soul rest. Verse 7, certainly he is my rock and my salvation, my high castle. And certainly all humanity together are a vapor or a breath. Verse 11, don't trust in extortion. Don't put your confidence in, uses the word here for extortion or exploitation, abuse, the systems of this world. Don't put vain hope in plunder or in might, in the might of plunder. Don't trust in oppression. Don't trust in the vanity of riches. It says, though these things increase riches, don't set your heart on them. They look for a moment like they're going to give you something that's worth having, but don't trust in them. Verse 12, once God has spoken, twice I have heard this. Might belongs to God. Like I've had to hear it again. Well, God spoke it once. I didn't get it the first time. Twice I've had to hear this. Might belongs to God. Also yours, O Lord, is loving kindness. Yours is chesed. For you reward a man according to his doings. Hide in the Lord. He is certain. He is sure. Put your trust in him. Quit running from him. Quit trying to assert your way in your own life. Quit trying to be the king of your own life, but entrust yourself to him. Run to him. Don't be like the stubborn mule or horse or donkey. Don't try to have your way. Listen to his voice and trust in the certainty of who he is. Hide in him, in his certainty. Amen. All right. Well, uh, thanks again for I'm glad we're all together. Sorry I'm not able to greet everyone and to know who's there, but be sure that you're greeting one another. I pray that this word today, as we have gone through the Psalms, is a word of encouragement to you, and that you'll remember that the Lord is your certain hope. He is your salvation, certainly. He is your rock, your fortress, your deliverer. So hide in him. Amen. All right. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.